There it is.
Why takedown defense is the biggest scam in MMA. For years, fighters have been told, just work your wrestling, stop the takedown, and you'll beat the wrestler. That's a lie. Here's why the entire sport is stuck in the wrong meta and what actually works. Why takedown defense doesn't win fights. Pure takedown defense forces you to be reactive. You're always worried about what not to do instead of what you want to do. That kills offense and it kills creativity. It turns elite strikers into cautious point fighters. Examples: Pereira versus Ankalaev. Even when Pereira stuffed everything, the threat alone froze his offense. He wasn't throwing the same combinations, wasn't committing, because every strike risked opening him up for the takedown. Aldo versus Merab. 0 takedowns landed, but Aldo fought scared of the shot. Every time he had success, he slowed himself down. Momentum constantly interrupted by the mental weight of Merab's wrestling. McGregor versus Khabib, Leon versus Belal, Pereira versus Ankalaev. Again, great strikers suddenly look hesitant, and in some exchanges even got outstruck, got knocked down by the grappler, because they can't open up without fear. It's not about whether you can stuff the takedown, it's about whether you can fight your A game while under the threat of it. Striking is rhythm, wrestling is rhythm breaking. That's why the wrestler dictates the terms, even if they never get you down in the first place. So how do we actually beat wrestlers then? For years, the traditional answer in MMA was simple. Stuff their takedowns, make them work, and wear them out. Once they're tired, you take over or win on points. And sure, it worked for guys like Leon Edwards and Alex Pereira. But here's the truth, that strategy doesn't work anymore. Because by the time you shut down their wrestling, they've already won their early rounds. You're now fighting from behind. Think about Volkanovski versus Makhachev. By the time Volk started building momentum, it was already round 5. And all Islam had to do was survive. Even worse, you get trapped in an infinite cycle. Every time you defend, you reset. Every time you reset, you hesitate. You never get to build real offense. You're always reacting, always playing catch up. That's why just stuffing takedowns isn't the answer anymore. So what actually is? You have to break the defensive cycle. Defending and resetting after every exchange isn't enough. Against elite wrestlers, you have to turn defense into offense. You have to punish takedown attempts. Think about striking. If you never counter, someone can pressure you forever. You'll get walked down, trapped on a cage, and eventually broken. MMA is no different, but the current meta doesn't teach this. We're taught to not lose, not to win. That's why wrestlers thrive. Takedown defense plays into their game. They shoot, you defend, you reset. Even if you stop them every time, they're racking up control and dictating the pace. It's wrestling, just with MMA gloves. So how do we actually deal with this? Break the defensive cycle. The answer is scrambling. Scrambling is counter-striking for grapplers. Instead of just fighting grips or standing up, you use the momentum against them. Think Granby rolls, hip switches, sweeps, looking for submission as counters, getting in the clinch, punishing them with striking. Anything that punishes failed shots. Look at Khabib and Makhachev. The rare times they're taken down, they don't accept the position. They instantly scramble, attack, and turn the tables. Fighters like Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Levitt, Jack Della Maddalena against Belal, Reiner de Ridder versus Bo Nickel, they didn't just defend takedowns, they punished them, and that's how they were able to beat the wrestler. Look at Dricus versus Bronson. Bronson was the better wrestler, but it didn't matter. Dricus punished every takedown, scrambled relentlessly, and forced Bronson to work harder than him every second. The takedown threat was neutralized because he never let Bronson settle. That's how you beat a traditional American volume wrestler with a low finishing threat. But against Chimaev, this approach backfired, pulling guillotines, forcing submission, and forcing chaotic scrambles got Dricus into worse positions. Why? Because Dagestanis are built differently. They're not just wrestlers, they're chain wrestlers, and their wrestling works much better for MMA. They dominate upper body control, thrive against the cage, and don't even need clean takedowns to win. They're also better scramblers. If you create wild scrambles, you're playing into their strengths. So how do you beat them? You don't need to out-wrestle them. You need to out-threaten them. The goal isn't to win every position, it's to make them work harder than you from top control. Think of GSP versus BJ Penn. GSP didn't try to outspeed Penn, when he knew he was much faster than him and he would easily get countered. Instead, he used constant feints and layered threats to slow him down. Against Dagestanis, we need to do the same. Threaten submissions, strikes, sweeps. Every time they settle, make them defend. This isn't about avoiding the takedown. It's about trading some control time for damage and energy drain. Win the energy war and you take away their biggest weapon, control. They might control positions early, but by the later rounds they're gassed, and that's when you take over, and that's how you beat the Dagestanis.